Yes, yes. Hi, Knut. Thank you so much for joining us. I'll give an introduction to what we do at Bitshala quickly, and would love for you to give an introduction to your new book, and we can start to keep the session interactive from there. So, Bitshala is a Pathshala for Bitcoin, and we're focused on open source school and focusing on getting more developers into Bitcoin. And the story is that Rajarshi Mehta and Setu started this in 2022, and it started with just four people. Emil is one of them, and Anmol and Stratosphere. These were the four people who started Bitshala and wanted to introduce more people to Bitcoin in India, primarily, but just in general, just make it simpler for people to get into Bitcoin. Because as we all know, Bitcoin can be intimidating for somebody who's just starting out, and somebody who's curious is the only prerequisite that Bitshala had. And all of us had our own journeys and started to contribute. Myself, I am a lawyer. I'm not an open source developer, but I wanted to contribute to Bitcoin, and I was just somebody who was rambling on it on social media with in-person interactions, and just couldn't just keep my mouth shut about Bitcoin. And I wanted to contribute to Bitshala because I love those guys and I love what they are doing for Bitcoin in India. And so this is how I started to contribute to them. And so we do these Bitcoin clubs, and we almost have something going on at Bitshala every day. So the starting from the first day in the week, so we have Monday latest in Bitcoin Tech, which is the Optech newsletter, and the host is Faisal Qureshi, who is with us right now. And so every week, Bitcoin Optech newsletter has a newsletter which Faisal covers in detail, and all of us ask questions and go into the depth of every weed of the developments that have happened in the last week. Tuesdays, we have hands-on lightning. So this is run by Aditya Sharma, who's not here right now, who's one of the core developers working on L&D full-time, if I'm not missing that detail. And he runs deep technical sessions on running Lightning Core for somebody who's starting out or wants to go deeper. Then there's the Wednesday Reading Club sessions, which is hosted by me. And we cover Bitcoin text, which is for somebody who is new to Bitcoin. So this is like me trying to, in the last 2 years, trying to break down my journey into Bitcoin and help make it simpler for somebody who's perhaps not technical or who's just starting out. So Wednesday reading class, we've covered Austin economics. So my introduction to Bitcoin was actually not through economics. It was just through Andres Antonopoulos being crazy about it. And I saw some crazies on Twitter and just wanted to be part of that craziness. And I realized that that craziness sometimes does not articulate better to people who might not share that passion. And that is where I started to dig deeper into how exactly Bitcoin works. For some reason, Bitcoin is very intuitive to me, but I was not able to explain it to someone who's perhaps not as intuitive about money or freedom and sovereignty. So this is where I mean, Dur Gigi came into my life. His writings had a deep impact on me, and then over time, I found the Bitcoin community and a couple of articles that I read of yours that I was really keen on. One is the scaling solution for Bitcoin, and I remember I shared this across people who were debating continuously about how Bitcoin scales, and I came across your piece about how Bitcoin ties into the time that we spend with others, and that being the ultimate currency. And I might be misquoting your exact words, but I remember how over time, as we have a deflationary money standard, prices of things go down over time, and the primary currency in that system becomes time. And the more time we spend with each other, the more value we are able to create and share and exchange without always having to use a currency. And I might be wrong here, but this was my understanding from it. Yeah. And then we have Thursdays Bitcoin Core PR Review Club. This is hosted by Stratosphere, and this goes into the one of the PRs that we pick up every week. And Stratosphere helps somebody who's going into the weeds of Bitcoin tech and understanding the details of that specific PR and how we can contribute. Then we have the Friday cohort sessions. So we have cohorts at Bitshala which help break down the intimidation and the journey of somebody who wants to start understanding Bitcoin. And we call Mastering Bitcoin our basic theory study cohort, the gateway drug. So somebody like me who's wanting to understand the nuts and bolts of Bitcoin and needs a community around him. So somebody who's wanting to understand how Bitcoin works, but does not have either the skills or the bent of mind to code, should be able to understand Bitcoin and how it works nonetheless. So this is where we start with mastering Bitcoin. Then if they are comfortable and they have the inclination, then they can start to go deeper with learning Bitcoin through command line, which starts from this Friday. So I am also starting to learn Linux more and more, and understanding how my full node works better. So this is for somebody who's wanting to learn Linux, wanting to learn command line and the basic operations of creating Bitcoin transactions and verifying uh, Bitcoin's consensus rules. Then we have advanced theory and advanced hands-on. This is Bitcoin protocol development, and this is programming Bitcoin, which is by Jimmy Song, which covers every detail and looks of how Bitcoin works. Yep, this is pretty much it. This is about Bitshala. And I'll take a quick pause. If you have any questions for us, any feedback for us, what we should be doing, and how we can help reach out to more and more people. A lot of us have a lot of questions, but yeah, would love for you to share your
Oh,
thoughts with
excellent,
us.
excellent introduction, and what a cool bunch of people like doing this together, and that it's based around curiosity and wanting to learn. I love that. So fantastic. And that article of mine you quoted or paraphrased, that is one of the most misinterpreted or misunderstood articles I ever wrote. So yeah, I can get into the weeds of that. It's kind of complicated. Uh, but still, yeah, I think there's
How
more
close was
to
I? How
Bitcoin
close was I
that
to interpreting it?
very close. I'd say your explanation is better than most. Like sometimes people in the shitcoins on Bitcoin camp hold that article against me and say that I'm an economically illiterate and whatnot. But I was trying to make a broader point with that article, and how when you have perfect money, how everything else becomes more important and the money becomes less important. So basically your reputational capital, and as you say, your time, that becomes the valuable thing of value that you share with others, and the money itself is not chased after as in the same way as it is in the fiat system, where everyone's running to catch a quick buck every second of their lives. Like we go into a more low time preference and better state of mind, I think. So yeah, thank you for that introduction, or that bit of it.
Yeah, Shan.
Yeah,
A
just
lot
one
of
question. I just read your introduction that you were a sailor and also a rock star, and would love for us to know your journey. How did you get into the weeds of Bitcoin? And yeah,
Yeah. My story, my TLDR there. Like, first of all, I didn't become a rock star until I stopped trying to be one. So I'm more of a rock star now than I ever was before Bitcoin. But the sailing thing is like, yeah, I'm a sea captain by trade. I started after high school. Um, I started at a university studying electronics engineering, but I was really tired of school and I dropped out after a year. I didn't fancy being in the system. I wanted to do whatever I wanted every day. So, so I ended up having to find a job and started working on boats and ships, and ended up on a tall ship for a long time with high school students on board, where I was one of the officers, and we got to see like around 40 different countries and how they worked, and I had a lot of spare time on my hands to think about things. So that's sort of where this philosophical journey of mine started. I think that's where the main seeds were planted, so to speak. And I sort of discovered or heard about Bitcoin for the first time during those years. And then after that, I started a family, so I needed a job closer to home because I was away for a long time at a time. So I needed something closer to home, and I found crew transfer vessels for wind turbines out in the Baltic Sea and the Northern Sea, and so I ended up working there first on the boats, and then in the office. Had an office career and ended up as the HR manager before I finally took the leap of reason, if you will, to go full time on my Bitcoin career, because my books had already started taking off a bit, and I figured that I have enough of safety nets to take a leap here and move down to our holiday home in Spain and start a new career in Bitcoin, sort of, and see where it leads. And that's what I've been doing ever since. And yeah, right now I have my own office here in a new house that we bought, and with a lot of Bitcoin memorabilia and stuff, and just enjoying the ride, writing more books, and hosting the Bitcoin Infinity Show, formerly the Freedom Footprint Show, together with my partner in crime, Luke DeWolf, and who is also the co-author of the new book that looks like this. And he also helped me redesign and re-edit Everything Divided. So these two are out now, and the plan is to release all of my old books with similar covers and the same theme here over the year, and also helping other Bitcoin authors and some publications and stuff get off the ground. We have a bunch of collaborations. One of my main theses in Bitcoin is that Bitcoin companies and Bitcoin people, Bitcoiners, are naturally incentivized to help one another rather than compete with one another, because we all benefit from each other's success, which is one of the most beautiful aspects of the system. So I'm trying to lean into that and start as many productive collaborations as I can with other Bitcoiners and Bitcoin companies, and just see where that leads. And so far, it's been doing remarkably well. It's been playing out the way I hope to. I get so much value from other Bitcoiners. Not primarily monetary value, but just people giving me their time, and I have this. I get to have these amazing conversations for a living, which is just mind blowing to me still, and I still pinch myself of how lucky I am to get to do that. So anyway, here we are, and at the birth of a media conglomerate, if you will, but on a very, very small scale. But it starts with this new book, Bitcoin: The Inverse of Clown World.
Yep. I think just to touch upon this point as well, that Bitshala, for better or worse, has also become the community of India. So people have started to come to these events that we organize. So we also organize monthly events called BitDevs every month. And these primarily started with technical subjects that we pick up, and some expert gives a talk on it. But we have started to see that there are more and more people starting to contribute to Bitcoin in their own ways. And they come from all walks of life, they come from all backgrounds. And like you said, they already have that intuition or spirit that they want to help each other out and learn from each other. Yeah. And that's already
the wonderful thing is that you don't have to be technical at all. Like, everyone can contribute to Bitcoin by just accepting Bitcoin for the goods and services. Like, since Bitcoin is money, or can be used as money, we can all contribute with whatever skill we have, whatever is valuable to other people on the market. We can accept Bitcoin for that, and thereby, or accept, favors and counter favors from other Bitcoiners, and thereby helping the community. So it's all good. Anyone can join.
Just wanted to tell you, we have got a couple of your books. For example, this book on sovereignty and independence, and this one on praxeology, and then this one, Everything Divided by 21 Million. Unfortunately, the new book is, we have the Kindle version because we couldn't get the physical copy. But yeah, we keep all of this in BitSpace, and people love to read your books.
Yeah, we just unlocked India. India was one of the countries we weren't shipping to up until yesterday. But then before this, like, I talked to Luke and why India is a great big market. We should our books should be available there. So the reason they weren't available before is that is the taxes were hard to manage, and also the shipping costs were very high. But anyway, we've unlocked India now from the webpage bitcoininfinity.com, and you can get. So this is the same book as the one you showed there, the Everything Divided. This is just with a new cover, slightly edited. So, but the other books are coming as well. Praxeology. I'm also working on a course in praxeology for the Plan B network. Giacomo Succo's thing in Lugano and San Salvador and wherever else, like Hong Kong, I think. And Sovereignty and Independence, that book, that if you hold it up again, that Sovereignty and Independence thing, that's the one. Those are my two first books combined into one. But because we figured, like, the first books were more like pamphlets than books because they were too short. But I think we're separating them again and like doing this newly thing as a whole bundle going into the future. Anyway, I'm very glad that you have the books and that you enjoyed them. Warms my heart.
Knut, we have read some of your work, but would you be open to share like what exactly was the reason you wrote another book on Bitcoin and this time on the inverse of clown world? Like if you can share some anecdotes that you have written this book about, that'd be great for people who are starting to notice your work, who are starting with your work.
Yeah. So the first book, like Sovereignty Through Mathematics, was really my first proper book, and I wrote that because I had tried to self-publish before that, and that was just basically a collection of articles. I started writing about Bitcoin in 2017, and I combined those, compiled them into a book, those articles. But then that's the only book I had to my name, so I was like, this isn't good. I want something to be more proud of than just this unedited articles. So I decided to write the proper book about Bitcoin, and that became Sovereignty Through Mathematics. And quite quickly after it was published, I got a very good editor on a Bitcoin Core contributor who wants to remain anonymous, but that helped me edit the book, and it became a lot better. And then I brought 50 copies to Baltic Honey Badger in Riga back in 2019, and gave half of them away and sold half of them. And then the book sort of took off, and now it's recommended on MicroStrategy's webpage and whatnot, and became a thing, which was very unexpected for me. But of course, then I had to write another book. So I wrote the follow-up, Independence Reimagined, the year after. And after that, when I moved down to Spain, I had written an article called Deeper Down the Rabbit Hole, which featured the sentence, imagine everything there is and everything there ever will be divided by 21 million, which later became this beautiful equation that we put in the animation video for the article. And that completely blew up, and people started adding it to their Twitter handles and whatnot. And infinity over 21 million is now a big thing in Bitcoin, and we even have the Infinity Day celebrated the 21st of August and everything. So I sort of had to write the book after that happened. So that became Everything Divided by 21 Million, and with a bit of help from Jeff Booth, who visited me down in Spain here 3 years ago, I managed to put that book together. And do a bit of a bigger launch, and that is to this day my most popular book. So the year after that, last year, I decided to write a book where I wouldn't mention Bitcoin even once, and that became the Praxeology book, which is like adjacent but not specifically Bitcoin. So that's my attempt at condensing Ludwig von Mises down to 130 pages. But this year, after having done the pod for almost 2 years, or like 1.5 years at the time, we've done it for 2 years now, but I have had all these great conversations with these great thinkers and great Bitcoiners on the pod. So I had a lot of ideas in my head, and like maybe there's another book in me about Bitcoin, like maybe there is something here. But for the longest time, I had sort of a writer's block, and nothing came out of me. And then one fine day in December last year, it just all started pouring out of me, and I sat by the keyboard and just started writing away. And I wrote like 10 chapters and showed them to Luke, and we decided to make it the best it could be together. So we sat down with the raw material and plowed it over and over a couple of times, and decided, it's going to be 12 chapters, and it's going to be this hero's journey type thing where the reader is the hero, and it's all about how you change the world by changing yourself and changing your own attitudes. Like that's what leads to the change. That's what in the end makes clown world go away. Because only as individuals and by embracing our individuality can we avoid the perils of collectivism in the end. And by reclaiming the driver's seats of our lives, and how responsibility and freedom are two sides of the same coin. All of this stuff, which is very Bitcoin adjacent, and in that bake in what Bitcoin is and why Bitcoin is so different to everything else, and how fleshing out how the Satoshis don't exist anywhere but in the people who own them. So that we're not all Satoshi, we're all Satoshis. Every Bitcoiner is their Satoshi, since all it's about is about keeping a secret. So every single aspect of Bitcoin is dependent on a human decision somewhere down the line. So I'd say it's backed by human action rather than backed by energy. And all the computers and software and hardware involved are basically just fancy abacuses to help us calculate and help us verify that everything is done correctly. So at the end of the day, I view Bitcoin as a fixed set of rules, and the reason that we agree on an agreement on a fixed set of rules, and the reason we agree on this particular set of rules is that it is the only rule set which is more expensive to try to break the rules than to just follow the rules. So that's why we agree, and that's what unlocks everything else that is so fantastic about Bitcoin. So like censorship resistance and complete finite supply and resistance to replicability, all the other nice things, teleportability, all of that is because we agree on these rules for a very logical reason, and that is that it's more expensive to break them than to just follow them, which makes this system possible. So yeah, in short, that's what the new book is about. It's about how you change the world by changing yourself, and that mostly means adopt Bitcoin and start accepting it for your goods and services, and stop complying with bullshit and walk your own way. Yeah.
So we were discussing this earlier, me and Shayan, the sovereignty aspects, which you basically touched a little on in this answer, that you start sort of reclaiming your own journey, and you start figuring out like how the world works through by putting things into action. In your experience, have you seen like, and you were like aspiring rock star, and you could probably have you could probably tap into the culture because you had an understanding of the culture, and that probably is one of the reasons why you have been able to create such amazing content. But the question that I wanted to ask was, have you seen it with other people who had some sovereign aspects of whatever it is that they were pursuing, and that was the reason that they were drawn towards Bitcoin? Or the other way around, wherein someone was drawn to Bitcoin and now they seek sovereignty in all aspects of their life, whether it is the philosophy that they pursue or the religious attitude that they have towards the one, or the health science or the health information that they pursue. What kind of things are you seeing around?
Well, I see that connection everywhere in the Bitcoin space. Like there are so many Bitcoiners that become more sovereign because they adopt this, and there are so many freedom lovers that eventually find Bitcoin, because like being an anarcho-capitalist or a libertarian is kind of pointless without Bitcoin, because you have no way of defending yourself. But when you start seeing the world through these truth goggles that Bitcoin provides, then everything else becomes much more clearer, and you can see it everywhere. People living their lives on their own terms more and more. I go into this in the book as well, that I don't think Bitcoin is itself a signal. So I don't believe in this that like it's divine intervention or whatever. I just think it's an ultimate noise removal tool, because it allows you to find the meaning of your life regardless of what religion or creed or whatever you subscribe to. It allows you to find who you are, and to free up time for you to do whatever you want. And the mechanism in which it does that is, it's very simple. You acquire some Bitcoin, you don't sell them, and they go up in value. And after that, you have uncensorable money that is worth like 1,000 times more than it was when you acquired them, and you can do whatever the fuck you want. And it's beautiful because it brings out the best in people. So people say that money is the root of all evil, but I don't think so at all. I think bad money is the root of all evil, if anything, and evil is the root of bad money. So it's circular. But when we have perfect, damn near perfect money, Bitcoin never needed to be perfect. It only needed to be good enough to last forever. And when we have that, that unlocks so much else, because we have something we cannot cheat. Where the only way to leverage your Bitcoin stack is to spend it on someone else's goods and services, and thereby helping everyone in the economy by making the economy bigger, which is how money was always supposed to function. So I think we've finally found something that we should have had all along. And that is, to me, one of the most amazing aspects, that the only thing, Bitcoin is just language and math, right? It's just code. So we had this ability in us all along. We could just have helped one another and been friendly to other human beings, and then we would have all have been better off. Unfortunately, there are bad actors and bad people who don't want to live an honest life, and but want to leash of others' success, and think that theft is okay, either in the form of actual theft or taxes or inflation or whatever it is. And Bitcoin sort of proves that we don't have to do things that way. We can do everything consensually and voluntarily, and everyone will be better off. And everyone I know who's, in Bitcoin and living and breathing Bitcoin, is experiencing that level up to their humanity, if you will. They are living better lives. They are happier. They are healthier. They take care of their families and their friends better, and they're just better off. They have more money, but they crave less stuff. They realize that that which you can do without your own. So come to all of these things that the gurus from India have been preaching about for hundreds of years, that you don't really need all of this material bullshit. What you need is you need the driver's seat. You need to sit by the steering wheel and be in control of your own life. And I think for those that truly embrace it and truly understand what it is, that is what Bitcoin unlocks, the insight that which you can do without your own. And I think that is very beautiful.
I think one point, I have so many questions, but I think one point that you touched upon on the Indian culture as well. I think currently at the stage that we are in Bitcoin adoption, Bitcoin is mostly just a Western phenomena. Bitcoin for even Indians is mostly just happening on Twitter. And it's only in the last maybe couple or maybe 3 years that we have started to see local meetups pop up in different parts of the city, different parts of the country. So I think slowly we're starting to see the Indian flavor of Bitcoin as well. This is just my experience over the last 3 years, that I've started to see more and more Indian Bitcoiners starting to understand Bitcoin, and just meeting in meet space has become so powerful because it starts to become real for them. That's true for me. When I started Bitcoin, it was just an internet toy thing for me. It was just a crazy thing happening on the internet. But as I started to meet more people in meet space, started to become more real for me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I couldn't go, but I was invited to a Bitcoin conference in India, in Bangalore, the other year. Were you involved with that? I'm sorry if I'm misremembering stuff I should
Yes.
have remembered here.
A lot of us
Yeah,
were
there
at
was
the conference. Yeah. Yes, Hitu, go ahead.
There was one last year. In fact, a lot of us met in a Bitcoin conference that happened in Goa 2 years back, and
Oh.
that's where Bitshala was born, like the seed of it. And there was another conference that happened last year in Bangalore, and a lot of us had met there as well. But to continue to Shreyan's question, like, do you think, like, what sort of advice do you have for the content creators or people who are trying to look at the culture, trying to get those ideas out and, like, orange pill, so to speak, more Indians into Bitcoin? Like, what sort of content creation advice, or what sort of content creation insights or tips you have for someone who is doing that in other country or in other geography?
Oh, that's a great question. It's very hard because it's always hard to be seen in the vast ocean of content out there. Like that's what every content creator. That's the dilemma every content creator faces. There's so much. The risk of being drowned out by just a flood of content is huge. So I think what is crucial is to find your niche, or what your part of the thing is, and go with that, and do what the basic things, like do what you like doing, and do what you're good at doing. Like find your ikigai, if you've seen this Japanese Venn diagram thing where your job and your hobby and your vocation and your passion, they all converge in the middle somewhere, and that middle could be Bitcoin. So my tip is just lean in as much as possible. Try it. Don't be afraid. It's all trial and error, like with everything else. Like I have this philosophy that if I don't do anything, nothing will happen. If I do something, most likely nothing will happen, but it might. So the more things you do, the more you have a chance of reaching someone somewhere at some point. And I also like I take a lot of inspiration from Trey Parker, the guy who writes South Park, and from John Cleese. And the reason I mentioned these two comedians is because of their tips on creativity specifically, because they have both have their own angles, and I identify with them a lot. Like Trey Parker says that he aims to be 95% satisfied with a South Park script, because he knows that if he spends another 2 months on it, he can achieve 5% better. But it's not worth those 2 months because he writes the rest of the scripts in 2 days. So you have to find your balance there. You can't chase perfection forever. You need to be you need to move on, otherwise you never get the momentum to get to the next project and so on. And you get bored with your own stuff anyway. So polishing a turd is not advisable. And the other thing is, John Cleese's advice is that in order to be creative, you have to not only not be interrupted for a certain amount of time, but you have to know that you cannot be interrupted, which is why it's fantastic for me to have an office in my house now, because I can close the door and no one can come in, and I can actually be creative in here. If you know that your wife might poke you on the shoulder or something at any point, then you get no ease of mind and you get nothing done. I'm sure you can identify with this. If you know that your phone is going to go off and give you notifications for this or that, then it's very hard to be creative. So like turn off your notifications, turn off your wife and your children. I mean, not literally turn them off, but make sure that you have a time and a space to be creative. And most of the time, nothing will come out of it. Like you can stare at a blank page for forever and nothing comes out of you. You don't control that. It's sort of like, I think it was Benny Andersson of ABBA fame that said that the song is already in the room. You just have to sit by the piano when it flies by and catch it. And to me, that's very much what creativity feels like. Like it feels like you're channeling something from somewhere. I don't believe that that's literally true, but it's true in the sense that is the feeling you get from being truly creative. So that's, I try to lean into all of these tips and like I try to work that way. Find a work-life balance that make the two enhance one another, so that your life and your work becomes sort of the same thing, but that they're both relaxed. And I mean, there's a lot of extremely productive people out there who read audiobooks on 2.5 point the speed, and that they find these productivity hacks that they can be super efficient all the time. But I think there's something to just relaxing and finding yourself and finding the deeper ideas. And you know, there's plenty of examples of people who had remarkable careers by doing nothing, basically. Like Bill Murray, the actor, for instance, who made a career out of a perpetual midlife crisis look. I believe John Lennon or Bob Dylan, when they wrote songs, they didn't really think very much. It just came to them and they didn't put too much effort into it. But each to his own. You have to find your own way and what works for you. But for me, creativity is a very weird beast to try to tame because it's so untamable. You never know what's going to hit you and when. But whenever the blind hen can find a golden pebble, it's a very rewarding feeling. It's very nice to actually capture something. And also, like, do stuff, like do podcasts, do meetings like this, and write, give talks, talk to other people, be on panels, all of that. all of these things help the other things. So you become a better writer by doing more of the other stuff, and vice versa. So I try to just say yes to as many things as possible, and just that's how I believe the path forward, what the path forward looks like.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thanks, Knut.
Yeah, one related point that I've had, and I was just watching a video on, I think you made a video on, I'll quickly just go over the title, which was about the Dunbar's number and how the belief systems of nation states is how nation states are surviving. And they're very similar
Yeah.
to how separation of church and state happened, that they are existing today because of the belief system that most people believe in. And I was just, when you were highlighting how creativity is a weird beast, I remembered when I started out working in Bitcoin, I literally used to give out my personal phone number to everybody. And I wanted to connect with each Bitcoiner. And I wanted to I wanted to know each of their stories, wanted to help them out as much as I can. And I've realized that the Dunbar's number is definitely crossing. For me now, when I start seeing those messages, I'm actually not able to do justice to their time and their efforts and my own efforts and my own time as well. So I'm already starting to see that Bitcoin, in just my own personal network as well, has started to cross the Dunbar number. We all have that belief system, or we all have that value system that Bitcoin is valuable, and it's important to work towards that end of making Bitcoin happen for more and more people. And that Dunbar number reality has started to become very tangible for me. That's definitely something that is a phenomena that has happened in history and has surfaced in more and more forms. And I think Bitcoin is going to become that reality. So Setu and I were also discussing that maybe we need a religion around Bitcoin, and sovereignty is the core tenet of that.
The Dunbar's number is interesting, and yeah, I've sure experienced the same thing. Like going from 5,000 followers on Twitter to 20,000, and now I don't know where I'm at this moment. Like it's more than 75,000, and it's very each level is very different from the other, because like it's and of course there are people with a much larger reach than I have, that have like 3 million followers. And I can't imagine what it's like being them, because it's so hard to manage time and to give your time to everyone. So at some point you need some type of filtering mechanism. I mean, money is one filtering mechanism. That's how you pick and choose between conferences, for instance. Once you're wanted and you have scheduling conflicts, you'll just have to pick the one that pays the most, or the one that seems more valuable to you in some other way than monetary. So we're all of our lives are filled with these little micro decisions and alternative costs, and what to do this and do that. But when your network becomes larger, you sort of need some way to filter out people. Orange Pill app is one way, like, which is an app you pay a certain amount for every month, and you can connect with Bitcoiners through there, and you somewhat know that those connections are at least paid for, so it's costly to send you a message. There are similar things where you can shoot the things being built on Nostr in particular, like where you have to shoot a couple of sats to the person in order to get to talk to them. And looking into these things going into the future. But right now I'm just now we're on Discord, so I'm on a bunch of groups and different Discord groups, and I have Signal groups, I have Telegram groups, I have Twitter groups, I have Nostr groups. Like there's a bunch of different things, and it's hard to keep track of all. Another thing I can recommend is find someone you like working with, and like team up with another person or a couple that and make sure that you like one another, and are, if you're aligned ethically, it's only good if you're different, because then, like with me and Luke, for instance, I'm this creative and chaotic brain, and he's very industrious and organized. So I can get the ideas, and we can together like get them together somehow. Of course, we have aspects of both in us, but when you find someone to work with that you work really well with, like lean into that, because Bitcoin is all about leaning into to human relationships and build on them and make them valuable. And I believe that's how we create value for one another. So I guess that's an answer to if there was a question in there somewhere.
Yeah.
I had a question, Kanu, and it correlates two things that you mentioned just now. You are somebody that I personally have observed are very explicit about your thoughts. You're one of the very few people, not only in Bitcoin, but elsewhere as well, who, despite occupying a reputation and a status, speaks his mind. And as you said, you have 75,000 plus followers on Twitter, and all of us are among them. There's a difference between speaking your mind out explicitly when you have 500 followers and when you have 75,000 followers. How do you strike a balance between, speaking your mind and at the same time ensuring that, you're also catering to your audience and not saying something that offends the people? How do you put across your thoughts in a very politically correct manner, because you're somebody who carries a weight in the community?
Yeah, there's a lot to this. Like when a person like Michael Saylor, for instance, says something publicly, he's responsible for a ton of shareholders in MicroStrategy. Like, so the things I can say more things more explicitly than he can, because he's limited by this responsibility for a bunch of people. So that is one of the perks of being independent, as in my case. Like I'm not that tightly associated, even though I do a lot of collaborations. I can speak my mind, and I made honesty and integrity a currency in itself for me. So like it's like that quote from Scarface, all I have in this world is my word and my balls, and that I don't break for no one. Like I try to live by that and try to put integrity first. That is why I never took a bag of shitcoins that were dangled in front of me and said, "Oh, buy this shitcoin. By the way, buy this shitcoin." I've explicitly not done that for my entire career in public Bitcoin career, and I think that pays off in the end. Like honesty and integrity are the currencies of the future, and that is what Bitcoin is. It's a layer of truthfulness, so you can't really lie. People will see through you in the long run. Having said all that, like I try to think about what to tweet and what not to tweet. I love shit posting and just going with the intuitive tweet here and there and the odd joke here and there. But I set up some rules for myself to avoid too much conflict, because as much as I love conflict, like people say that people are so nice on Nostr, so you should move there. But nice? What do you mean? Like I'm on Twitter because someone is wrong on the internet, and I can tell them that they're wrong. Like I want that kind of conflict. But still, I try to live by. I don't want to say anything about anyone that I wouldn't be able to say straight to their face. So I don't want to backtalk people. I can say bad things about people, but if I do, it's stuff that I would be willing to say to this person straight to their face. So that's a good motto to live by, I think. And also online, like don't name names, and like don't pick fights with people if you don't have to. You can pick a fight with an idea, but don't pick a fight with a person. And also never give an attention whore the attention they crave. So never retweet a shitcoiner, never like a shitcoiner's post, never get in a debate with them and try to refute their arguments. Just ignore them. That's 99% of the time that's more effective, because it's as the saying goes, never pick a fight with a pig. You'll both get dirty and the pig likes it. And there's a lot of that going on in social media. People just want a fight about some stupid stuff because they want the attention. That's their currency. They want the likes and the views and stuff. And I'm trying to avoid that, and I'm trying to build an audience without that. I'm trying to build an audience by, to me, a quality audience it's more important than a quantity audience. So I want, and I think more people should walk that path. And it's hard because as I've realized while doing the pod, that there is a game there is a game that's being played here, where you have to choose whether to. You have to play the game to a certain extent with the algorithms and anything if you're going to get any attention at all. But I hope it's the right way into the future is by being honest and building slowly but surely a true following by being followed by people that you are proud to have as followers instead of just acquiring a lot of them. Yeah, that's the best answer I can come up with, I think. I saw some comments here that they want us to go to the basics or something, that we're too deep.
Thanks a lot for that elaborate answer. Thank you.
Knut, I have two questions for you. Hi, this is Mike. Knut, your thoughts on intellectual property laws and implications of Bitcoin standard on IP laws and the market?
Yeah, very good questions. I don't believe in intellectual property laws. I think they're all fake and immoral. The only reason for human beings to have a conflict about anything is about things that are scarce. And the very nature of information is that it's infinitely copyable and thereby not scarce. So you can't. Intellectual property to me makes no sense because it's not property, it's information. By its very nature, copyable. So I think anyone who is enforcing an intellectual property law is using a flawed logic in the minds of lawyers and prosecutors and judges and lawmakers to attack someone else. So I think patent fights and copyright infringement claims and all of that is trying to. All of those people are just trying to get a more advantageous market position by attacking their market opponents, and I think it's all somewhat insincere. When it comes to Bitcoin, I view Bitcoin in a slightly different light. Of course, everything in Bitcoin is open source, and everything in Bitcoin is information. But can you really own a Bitcoin? And this is a deep question because, like, what is the difference between ownership and possession? Let's start there. So ownership is your legal relationship with an object, with a scarce object. So I can say, I own this phone. I can give the phone to one of you, and you can say, I can still say that I legally own the phone. I have a claim on the phone. And I can ask you to give the phone back, and you'll say, I'm sorry, I'm not going to give it back to you. It is mine now. And all of a sudden, I can't do very much other than start a legal case or whatever, or fight you somehow to get the phone back. Because this is the difference between, it is still owned by me, but it is in your possession. So this is the difference between ownership and possession. Bitcoin goes a level deeper because it's neither ownership or possession. You just know a secret, like you know a private key, you know 12 magic words, you know the location of a hardware wallet. At the end of the day, it's all about knowing a secret, and it's up to you to trust that no one else knows the secret also. You are responsible for no one else knowing the secret. You know that there's a non-zero chance that they will guess the secret, but it's very close to zero, that non-zero chance, because it would take them like several lifetimes of the universe to guess the secret, because there's so many. It's so immensely hard to find the Bitcoin private key to just guess one. So what you're doing when you're quote unquote owning a Bitcoin is that you know a secret, and you know that the odds of anyone else finding out that secret are so low, so that you believe that you can virtually say that you own the Bitcoin. But there's nothing physical to own, nor is there any intellectual property involved. It's just about it's all about probabilities, really, at the end of the day, which ironically enough is what quantum mechanics is all about too, and the base layer of the universe is all about probabilities and and such, right? So there's some deep connection there. I don't believe in intellectual property laws, and I think the correct way to view them is that this is an attack against something. Someone is using a system, a flawed legal system, to attack someone. So there's also, from a libertarian perspective, there's a difference between lawful and legal. And something legal is something that is legal according to any law book. So the law of India, or the law of Spain, or the law of Sweden, or whatever. But that can be very different from what's lawful, because lawful is, I don't really have an inherent right to take your stuff. That's unlawful to take other people's stuff. And it goes back to argumentation ethics and homesteading and non-aggression principle, all these libertarian Austrian economics principles that no one has. If someone says they have a better claim than you do to any of your things, any of your possessions, then it's up to them to show you why they are more entitled to my phone or that hat over there. So if someone comes here and says that's actually my hat, then the burden of proof is on them to show me why it's their hat and not mine. So this got kind of deep, but yeah, my basic view of intellectual property laws are that they are illegit and shall be viewed as such. Then there's nothing immoral in trying to avoid them. And I'm giving out all my books for free, by the way. I haven't published all of them publicly yet, but I published the first book as a post on Noster, and all of the other books will eventually be put on as posts on Noster, chapter by chapter, going into the future. So I want you to steal my book. I also want you to pay for it, but better you steal it than that you don't have it at all. So, and I think that that is the only way into the future. Yeah.
Yeah, Knut, my second question was, where can I pirate your books?
Where you can pirate them. That's a good question. But as I said, they will show up on Noster sooner or later. The first book is already there. And otherwise, yeah, you can contact me somehow, and I may or may not send you a PDF. I guess.
I'll try DMing you here. Thank you.
And just quick shout out, if somebody wants to ask questions, please always free to jump in.
Yeah, thank
Just
you.
to ask, Knut, pleasure to talk with you, and thanks a lot for taking time to speak with the Indian community. My first question was actually connected to Sweden. I was also living in Sweden for over 5 years, and I decided to move back to India. I see that you say on social profiles that you're based out of Spain. So have you also left Sweden, or is this more of a summer home that you're staying in?
I've left Sweden. I've lived in Spain for 3 years.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was thinking because of all those taxes, you end up working for half of the year for the government over there. So
yeah, it's not much better in Spain though. But being in the Bitcoin space, like taxes is one thing, but there are ways of avoiding them, and you can tax plan accordingly. Like we have the publishing house is set up in Estonia now, so like there are ways around taxes. Unfortunately, we live in the world we live in, where there are people with guns who take you away if you do things in a way they don't like. So you have to at least give out the appearance that you're doing things their way. But no, I don't believe anyone has the right to anyone else's property. And I believe you have the right and the obligation to defend it any way you can, and that is the moral thing to do, and the moral way of looking at life.
yeah, thanks. The second question was around anarcho-capitalism. Do you foresee a time in the near future where you can? How do you foresee society will look? Will it be like an island nation that adopts anarcho-capitalism? Like I know Javier Milei has talked a lot about ANCAP related philosophies. But how do you foresee the future with anarcho-capitalism? Do you actually think it can come live, and in what kind of a setting?
That's a great question, and I've been thinking a lot about the subject. And the way I see the future is that, like, because there's no way to quantify whether there is such a thing as a libertarian or anarcho-capitalist nation or not. Like the whole word anarcho-capitalist nation is sort of oxymoronic, right? Because how would you even know what it was or what it looked like if everyone's free to do whatever they wanted? So I think what we'll see in the future. I love that people like Javier Milei are getting attention because it's giving attention to these ideas. What he can do politically, we're yet to see that. He's very early in his career. I believe what he's done so far has been mostly positive. Has been firing a lot of public sector employees. I just think that we will, in the future, it will be easier and easier for people to start their own communities and start living the parallel lives to whatever lives they're living in their national hamster's wheels. And you can start a Fedimint or Noster things or whatever. You can use all these tools. Because what we have, look at what we have right here. If we wanted to start a micronation with this group, we probably wouldn't be using Discord, but something else. But still, we have the ability to video conference with one another, so we can talk to one another regardless of where we live, without lag, all across the globe. And we have Bitcoin, which is uncensorable money, which we could use to pay for each other's goods and services. And we have social media where we can find one another. And now we have unstoppable social media and unstoppable federations and unstoppable money. I'm extremely bullish on that. I'm extremely optimistic with it. I think we've already won, sort of. We need to fight the fight and we need to take charge of our own lives. But I just see these parallel societies popping up all over the globe and people finding one another and finding their tribes without having to adhere to arbitrary rules that are pushed upon them simply because of the fact that they were born in a certain geographical area. I think the whole idea of nationalities is at its core pretty absurd, that especially when you travel a lot and you see that like different rules apply to different people, and these Americans, they have a lot more money and these people are poor and these people are forced to do this and that, and these people have to buy their alcohol at specific state-run stores, and these people can smoke cannabis and these people can't, and here they can do abortions, here they can't, like it's all, and here they have to take the vaccine, here they don't give a shit about COVID, here they have to wear masks, and like the very notion of different rules applying to different people is to me at its core pretty absurd. And it should be taken for what it is. And that is like, no, you don't decide over me. I decide over me. You don't have any more right to decide over me than I do. So I'm going to live life my way and try to disobey as much as I can and try to live it on my terms. And the more people that do that, the better the world we live in. I'm absolutely 100% sure of that, because I think voluntary consensual interactions are better than enforced ones. It's that simple. We'll all be better off if we were friends than if we're enemies. Like, it's that fucking simple. So that's what I try to live my life by. Hope that was a good answer.
Yeah, if I can go next.
Sure.
Yes, of course.
Hey Nat, it's been great interacting with you. I just had one question. So I'm not sure if anyone else has asked this to you, but I come from the traditional finance community, right? And I've been studying Bitcoin for the last 2.5 years, and I could definitely say it has turned my worldview upside down. It's like I was living in the matrix, and it's like nothing is real anymore. I was living in this sort of a delusion, which I did not know what goes where and what is connected to where. But suddenly I'm able to see so much and make sense of so much all around me. So I can definitely say that Bitcoin gives you a new perspective, a new point of view, which takes you maybe at a height of 30,000 feet and lets you see things how they are, and gives you a very good vantage point. However, there are a few things which still trouble me. So one of those things, and I hate to be the one to ask this question, but Bitcoin's volatility is still very high, and I know that
Bitcoin what?
volatility, the price volatility.
Volatility.
In
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I know asking about volatility is the kind of shitcoiner or a no-coiner question because you do not understand Bitcoin if you are just focusing on the price. I know inside my head that that is the true sense of Bitcoin that I'm not realizing. Still, when you try to talk to people and when you try to make them understand what you are seeing, price becomes one of those factors of conversation. And I'm not sure how you tackle it or how people around you tackle it when you explain Bitcoin's philosophy to people. So maybe just a question for you. How do you address this question? Or do you think if someone is thinking about volatility, he needs to study deeper, he needs to go deeper and understand it better?
Great question. Volatility. This is a funny word, isn't it? There's so much to unpack there. Like, it's sort of blaming volatility on Bitcoin is sort of like blaming the existence of oligarchs on the free market in Russia, and not blaming it on the Soviet system that made the oligarchs possible. Like, so what I'm trying to say with that is like, if we're going to have damn near perfect money, absolutely sound money with a fixed supply, the only thing that is fair for everyone to set the price of that thing is the free market, like supply and demand. And with Bitcoin, you have an absolutely fixed supply and demand goes up and down. So there's a lot of volatility, especially now in the beginning when so few of us are in it. And then you have these big entities that are used to leveraging the fiat monetary system and rig markets and speed trading and ginormous amounts of money moving fast back and forth between accounts to lure in the innocent investor here and there. And of course, you get some of those effects on the price of Bitcoin as well. It goes up and down. But these are all fiat phenomena. Like this won't be the case in the long run. I don't know what the hyper Bitcoinized world looks like, but volatility is going down over time. I still think we'll see massive bull runs a couple of more times in the future before everyone hops onto the train and we get to some type of hyper Bitcoinization scenario. But the truth of the matter is that volatility is the natural state of things. Stable prices is the greatest lie ever told. It's not natural at all. Prices being somewhat stable and having a 2% inflation per year, that's all super artificial because you have this global sort of free market thing that a global market ought to push all prices down to their marginal cost of production. So all prices ought to be going down forever in a functioning market because everyone strives to become more efficient so that they can sell more for less. That's how you get the customers, and better quality and more quantity for a lower price. So every single market actor is working towards that. You can deep dive even further here, and you can say, if you practice something, do you usually get better or worse at doing that thing you practice doing? And the obvious answer is you get better. Like, of course you get better if you practice. If I practice to play Beethoven on the piano, I get better over time. I don't get worse, right? So why aren't all prices for everything going down forever? That should be the obvious follow-up question. Because if humans get better at doing stuff, everything ought to drop in price forever. That's what the free market is supposed to be doing. So this notion of stable prices, that's the lie. That's what lures us in to think that we need these fucking central banks and these fucking fiat currencies that some people get to leverage all of that extra productivity that comes every year and just take it all for themselves and live off of everyone else's labor. This is the reality we're living in, and Bitcoin is the answer to that. It's the antidote to that. And of course, when Bitcoin is still as small as it is, it's going to be volatile, and there's nothing to do about it except embrace it. Like I think the term store of value is very flawed, because you can't store value, because value is not only subjective but dynamic. What I find valuable today, I probably won't find as valuable 10 years down the line. Like my phone here will probably be very outdated 10 years down the line. I won't value it as highly as I do now. So value is subjective and dynamic. So I prefer the term medium of exchange over time. So Bitcoin is a medium of exchange over time and over space. Gold was a good medium of exchange over time, but not very good over space. Fiat was not very good over time, but good over space. So that's why it overtook the over time aspect. But people didn't realize what they gave away by giving up gold. So now we have a commodity that can do both, that lives in our heads and makes us all better and more friendly to one another, and that you can't take by force very easily. And that is going to change everything, but it's going to take time. And the thing to do, meanwhile, is to don't sell your Bitcoin, but accept Bitcoin for your goods and services. And whenever you get a Bitcoin payment, be very happy, because that person was willing to give up some of his precious satoshis to you. You should be very proud of yourself. Like, you actually provided that person with a shit ton of value, probably, because they were willing to give up satoshis. Like, so yeah, and I do understand that a lot of people in a lot of countries that aren't as well off and that are living hand to mouth and that don't have the capability to save money as others do, that it's harder for them, and it's harder for. But that is just the reality we find ourselves in. It's very unfortunate, and it's because of a lot of different things. Colonialism, the old-fashioned kind, and the financial colonialism that have been going on since, and that is still going on in parts of Africa and stuff. That is keeping people poor and keeping people at bay. However, I do think that almost everyone on Earth has the capability to save a tiny fraction of what they earn. Even if you live on $1 a day, save a cent. Like, there is something to put into Bitcoin somewhere. And I think we'd all be better off if we did that. It might sound harsh, but like, we found a cure for cancer, and we can stop pretending we've cured the cancer by putting more band-aids on the tumor. Like, we're actually removing the tumor by switching to a better system that is fair for all. And I think spoiled people who are used to squander their money and throw it away on garbage, they will lose their sats before people who have been through rough times. If you've been through rough times, you tend to value actually valuable stuff more highly. Like, you know the value of your life. You know how lucky you are to be alive and how lucky you are to see another day. So I think in that sense, a lot of people in developing countries have a bit of a head start here, because a lot of developing countries don't have the same bureaucracy as so-called Western democracies do, and a lot of other, like, quote unquote successful countries do. So they don't have these. It's easier to get around the system, so to speak. So that's an advantage. But we were all born where we were born. We cannot do anything about the set of cards that we had on our hands when we were born. All we can do is play those cards to the best of our ability. And I think Bitcoin provides us with a way to play the hand better. regardless of what hand we started with.
So, I mean, just a reminder to the participants that Knut has been very kind to us, and he's given us much more time than what we requested for. And he's a very busy person, so let's respect his time.
I
And
enjoy
if you
this.
have any closing questions,
I
we'd
have
like
more
to have
time
you
if
for the
you-
entire day. We have all the time in the world for you. Yes, so like Shian and Setu, if we have any questions if you want some closing advice from Knut, so maybe you can take over.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for making so much time for us. I think, like Faisal said, we can have you for as long as we want. We would love to have you sometime in India as well. I think just one question from
I'd
my
love
end.
to come.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm not sure if there's any conference or event planned anytime soon, at least this year. But yeah, if there's something on the card, then we'll definitely reach out to you and have you over whenever possible. Thank you so much. I'll just have ask one question. I have one question, and I'll be selfish enough to just put it across. But I'll just take maybe a couple of minutes of more time. I think for me personally. Yeah, thank you. So for me personally, even just the title of the book, The Inverse of Clown World, and your ideas around how nation states are an absurdity, that was true for me way before I was into Bitcoin because just I don't know this if this is a mathematics minded thing or if this is an artistic minded thing, but I just looked at everything from a very first principles thing that like you explain ownership and legality, right? I don't really own this thing because somebody can steal it from me. So what does it mean that I own Bitcoin? Is this
Yeah.
I think you put a good framework. There's just knowing a secret. I know something in my mind where the hardware wallet is, what those 12 words are. And that's perhaps as good as ownership you can get. Anything else, somebody can steal it from you. Right? With Bitcoin, somebody can put a gun to your head, but only when you reveal the secret can they even claim to have ownership over that thing. It's a weird question. It's a weird, deep question. One question that I had now is that for some reason, this is a very individual thing that a lot of us are able to see through this, but still there's a section of society which is still oppressed by that financial system, but is not able to see through that. And this is something that I'm struggling with. I'm always having more and more conversations with family members, with friends. And I did not want to be the outcast in my friends group. I did not want to be that. I just wanted to be as friendly as I've always been to them. And I do not personally like the toxic word itself. I think it was born out of a problem that most people are not able to see through this, and that's why toxicity came out of a bedrock of love because they were wanting to look after their friends, they were wanting to educate them, but they were shunned away. And I experienced it firsthand, and I'm still experiencing it in a lot of my friendships. That for some reason my school friends are not able to. Maybe I'm not doing a good job at articulating the values that Bitcoin stands for, but they look at me as this weird person. I did not want it to be weird. I just wanted to help them understand this thing so that it can benefit their lives. So for some reason, this crosses nationalities. This is true for every Bitcoin person in the world. I would love for you to just touch upon what that thing is, if there's a way to even think about it.
Yeah, great points. I mean, I've experienced this firsthand too. Like my friends thinking of me as a weirdo now, and like losing touch with some of them, losing contact with some of them, not hanging out with them as often. Like me living in Spain instead of Sweden is one thing, but still, because I think this, in order to understand Bitcoin to any level that counts, you need to first understand the problem it solves. And the problem it solves is so big and so mind-blowing and so life-changing for people. So I think the Matrix is the perfect metaphor, like the blue pill and the red pill. Most people aren't ready to start seeing everything that they took for granted growing up as a scam. It's like most people, the word democracy is sacred. If anything, we need to defend our democracy. Well, what if it never worked to begin with? What if it's a flawed system that always leads to totalitarianism and tyranny within a span of, say, 200 years? What if that is true for every single democracy? Like, it certainly looks that way if you look at it from a historical perspective and how it all plays out, and how all the fiat currencies end up in a hyperinflation scenario, which is a human tragedy. Families get split up and die, and there are civil wars and other proper wars, if you will. Like all of these atrocities, what if they happen because we gave away power to other people, in the first place? What if that is the... So I think like the lesson learned from World War II and stuff like that is like, yeah, we found another system than the obviously bad system, but it's still just another aspect of the same thing. We're still being governed. We're still being ruled by others. We're not taking responsibility for our own lives. And I think most people want to, martyrdom is not on their bucket lists. They don't want to die for a cause. They just want to be as left alone as to the largest extent as possible within the system they grew up with, because unlearning everything and learning something new, it's a scary thought, and most people don't want to do it. They're not ready to take that leap, so they fight it instead, even though they would have benefited from it, from just putting 100 hours into it. Like, put 100 hours into it. Like, tell your friends, like that's how I would do it. Like, okay, I'm not going to force this upon you, but if you're truly interested in why I can do all of these things now and you can't, like, put 100 hours into Bitcoin. Like, study it for 100 hours. And make sure you study Bitcoin only. No fucking shitcoins or stuff like that. Don't be confused. Like, study why this is important. Study what problem it solves. And maybe they'll wake up. But it is a problem. Yeah, it is. We're lulled into believing something. There's a great, this is a tip. There's a great little YouTube video, a short story by Nick Bostrom called The Fable of the Dragon Tyrant. Have you heard of it? It's a little animation about a dragon that settles close to a village. And the dragon demands they sacrifice 100 people every year. So they do that. And then slowly but surely, the dragon becomes a part of their daily lives, and they just take this dragon for granted, like it's something that was always there and that we can't do anything about, until one day that a guy finds out a way to kill the dragon. But the people are already so brainwashed with living with this dragon, so they are reluctant to even try to break out of it. And I think that's sort of the scenario we're living in, a perpetual Stockholm syndrome, like in love with your kidnapper sort of thing. So yeah, but tell people, put 100 hours into studying what problem Bitcoin solves.
Right. Yep. Thank you so much, Knut. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for answering the questions. Yep.
Yeah. If I may end on a shameless shill, you find my stuff on bitcoininfinity.com. Also some on knutsvanholm.com if you want to find the videos and music and talks and whatnot. The books are on bitcoininfinity.com and on Amazon. And yeah, the pod is called the Bitcoin Infinity Show now. It used to be called the Freedom Footprint Show. We try to release an episode every week, sometimes more than that. We just recorded 7 interviews in Riga during Baltic Honey Badger. It's some of the best interviews we've ever done. So looking forward to releasing a lot of great content here in the future. So, and thank you very much for having me on. And I love seeing this big community. I just saw what was it, like 66 people joined even before I hopped in, and it's just wonderful to see. Like, I travel a lot and I see a lot of small Bitcoin communities, but I see them everywhere. Like in every one-horse town, in every nation on earth, there are people like us that are thinking about these things and that want to break out and that want to be in charge of their own lives. Is very, very fucking hopeful. Pardon my French.
Yep. Wonderful words, Knut. And thank you everyone else for joining as well. We'd love to plan when we're having you over, so I'll keep you in the loop for that as well.
Yeah, I'll do the Indian sign for thank you.
Thank you so much for taking out time and addressing us. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Here's the European sign for thank you. All right. Take care, everyone. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.